gonna play football. Yippee!
Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Right on.
Shotgun. DC right. Flip 90. Dig. On the center. On the center. Ready?
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
The CFB on OSG with your host, the Online Sports Guys.
Thank you, Tommy Palmer. Welcome to another round of the review. It's the OSG on CFB. I know. It's like I can't even get into the intro without screwing it up. It's the OSG on CFB.
No, we're not doing a second take, even if we are on video and could do this.
Oh, no chance. That's fine with me. College football with the OSG Sports Guys. He is at OSG Phil. I'm at OSG Nelson. Jay Wilkerson, 16, is making sure that young Michael wins a trophy when it comes to travel baseball this time of year. So
for winning, not for participating.
Yes, I don't know if they are in hither or yon, but I know that they are someplace, and they're chasing after a trophy for perhaps winning. And we'll get that update for you for next week's show. But obviously, we're only a handful of Saturdays away from having things count, so business is kind of picking up. And one of our favorite...
like now 68, 69 days or something like that?
I think it might even be 61 as you and I are talking. So we're like right in that wheelhouse. So 61 or 68, depending on the win. As of right now, it looks like we will be doing a show from Dallas, Texas for the Kickoff Classic. So we will be there for that. Yeah.
I did not. Yes, this is news to me.
Yeah. So hit the breaking news sounder. It looks like we will be in the parking structure that is covered with asphalt over at Jerry World, and Brother Martin and OSG Southwest is putting up the studio space, and so we will be doing something from the studio space out there from the parking lot. So there will be OSG tailgating going on before Oregon and Auburn.
Oh God, I hope we get to do that one on video too.
Yeah, well, no, that's what he's structured. So I don't know off the top of my head when it is, if it's on a day that you're working normally or what. But the plan is right now from the parking structure at Jerry World, there will be something resembling a show.
Nice. Should we get on with it?
I think so. And our favorite topic will be the lead. And it's coming off of an Andrea Adelson article that happened over at the Four Letter. And with everything going on with our favorite P word, and by that I mean portaling and not just P.
Scotty, beam me up.
It appears that Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby thinks that all student athletes who want to transfer should sit out a year, no exception.
Well, how about we say this? Let's come to an agreement. If Bob Bowlesby can get his way and all transfers should sit out for a year, then all coaches who leave in the middle of a contract to go to another school should be forced to sit out a year too. Until that happens, he has no argument.
None.
It works both ways.
Just because you think.
Yeah, coaches can come and go as they please. Coaches can, yeah, I know there are buyout policies and this, that, and the other when it comes to the terms of how they can leave. But how many coaches sign brand new contracts, extend their contracts, and then a couple of weeks later or at the end of the season end up taking a better job someplace else?
Ask Todd Graham about that one.
Yeah, traveling Todd Graham, who I don't think is employed these days.
No, but with all the contracts that he's had simultaneously, I think he's okay for a little bit.
Yeah. But it's the whole crux of the problem with the transfer portal and everything else. In one respect, we've talked about this ad nauseum. The way the transfer portal has worked, it's a little bit too extreme because guys are just able to come and go as they please, it seems like. Unless you're somebody with an actual legitimate reason to leave.
Yeah.
then you don't get to go.
No, you don't.
But I mean, how many? Look at Brew McCoy, who's now been at USC, is now on his third time at USC or second time?
It's his second time. It's his third time. Let's see. So he was at USC, went to Texas, and then went back to USC. So I guess if you want, this is his third location. I don't know if his dorm room is the same at Southern Cal or not. So this is probably his third different location.
And that's before he's ever even played a game.
Yeah. And Bowlesby was a part of a commissioners panel at the NACDA convention, which is the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics. So whenever you see NACDA, that's what that is. It's a bunch of athletics directors who get to have a convention and they'll have speakers. And so you had a commissioners panel with Greg Sankey of the SEC, John Swafford of the ACC, and Bob Bowlesby. And Bowlesby thought that having different transfer guidelines for different sports was a colossal mistake. Football, hoops, baseball, ice hockey, you're supposed to sit out a year unless you apply to the NCAA for and are granted a waiver for immediate eligibility. Student athletes in all other sports are allowed immediate eligibility without penalty as long as they only transfer one time. Bowlesby thinks it's a colossal mistake.
Which is kind of odd when you read on in the article about how John Swafford really kind of likes the whole idea. Thinks the rules need to be tweaked a little bit, which they do. Can't argue with that at all. So while Bowlesby may have his own opinions, so does everybody else, and they're not necessarily on the same page.
No.
Which may actually be the cause of all the problem and why we're discussing it and why we seem to be having to discuss it every week. Because we're kind of seeing both ends of the spectrum on a new experiment, really. I mean, the transfer portal didn't exist until this year.
No.
And you're right, the rules for college football and to some extent college basketball players don't seem to be quite the same as they are for other athletes in the NCAA system. Or for that matter, the same rights as a student has. If a student wants to leave an institution to go take up his academics somewhere else, you don't have to sit out a year. I mean, what's the difference? You're talking about academics as opposed to athletics. Yeah, they're not going to spill any state secrets. And really, at the end of the day, is that not what this is really all about?
Yeah. Bowlesby thinks that requiring everyone to sit out a year would decrease the number of student athletes looking to transfer. For me, I have been of the point of view with all of this portaling going on, and to your point that you made, and it's been my number one point that I've been trying to hammer home at every opportunity, coaches don't get to sit a year. Players, if they are recruited to a school by a coach, then 9 times out of 10, the player is going to be put in a situation where you may have a coach who's uncomfortable with that player. You may have a coach that doesn't want to use that player, may want to try to do something differently with the player than what he was attracted to the institution to the first place. I've been of the bylaw that just go ahead and turn it into the Wild West, get the portaling over with. Everybody's Curt Flood. You can pursue free agency all you want, because at the end of the day, if coaches aren't penalized, why should players in the current format? And that's the way that I've been looking at it this entire time. I know that there have been some folks who want to put in like a graduate transfer rule where if you get your degree a year ahead of when you graduate, that you could put that skip year back in and it would add another year of eligibility for you.
Well, we do that.
If you graduate early, just to keep that in there as a part of the thing. But I'm over it. Portaling for me is something that has been something that we have had to cover out of a necessity. And I think that if you just go ahead and open the doors for everybody to go where they feel they're most comfortable, whether it's because of a personal matter, a family matter, or if you just want to go someplace to play, I would much rather it be all out in the open where everybody's sitting there and talking about it. And the real reason I want to go to School X is because I want to play, not because I'm stuck in a situation where, I thought I was going to play. The coach leaves. I've got a new coach. And now there's a new guy who has transferred in front of me in the depth chart immediately. And I'm just standing here going, okay, what am I going to do? So we'll just throw the doors open, let it happen. And I know that there are going to be folks who are going to sit there and say, well, what about the the academic aspect of it all? And if you can tell me that a majority of these athletes with a straight face are doing this because of academics, then we might have another discussion, but not right now.
Well, and it goes back to what we talked about last week with Luke Ford. I mean, he actually had a legitimate reason for wanting to leave the University of Georgia and go to Illinois.
As did the one player from Virginia Tech who was like 3 miles outside the mileage distance, and they wouldn't let him get back in.
And that's the ludicrousness, which I may have just made up a word.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Nah.
The ludicrousness of the whole situation is that they've got this system now in place where people can kind of go back and forth, but there's not really a hard and fast rule. And the NCAA, of course, being the NCAA, has refused to publicly allow people to find out, make public, whatever you want to call it, the reasons why some athletes are leaving. We come to find out guys like Tate Martell and Justin Fields leave just because they're not going to get the starting quarterback job.
Yeah.
And that's the issue with that whole system. But yeah, you're right. I mean, coaches are basically in a free agent situation. There's some money involved. But at the end of the day, these kids, even though they play football, they're college students. And college students, if they want to transfer from one university to another, can do it at their own free will. Why should the NCAA sit there and say, just because you're an athlete, you can't do it? What's the difference?
Yes.
If somebody can explain to me the difference outside of the scholarship thing, maybe we have another conversation. But really, technically, if you're on scholarship at a university, academically, you might have to forfeit the money, or you can transfer that scholarship with you when you change schools.
And it's a 1-year contract. A lot of folks sit there and think that athletic scholarships are 4 or 5 year deals. No, these are renewable 1-year contracts with institutions. And if a coach doesn't want to renew your athletic scholarship, he doesn't have to do it after a year. So I think that that's another aspect of the whole free agency bit that a lot of folks lose in this, is that these are 1-year deals. This is not a contract that is a 5-year deal that is ironclad, where you have to be locked into place. For a guy like Luke Ford, for a guy like Brock Hoffman, and that was the Coastal Carolina to Virginia Tech case, where Hoffman took to social media to kind of vent his spleen a lot, as he well should have. I'm to the point now where I'm over it. And I'm tired of both sides of the street trying to sit there and say that the other side is wrong. I think that if you just open the toll plaza and let everybody through, then we won't be having these discussions.
Yes, I guess we might want to, move on a little bit, but talking about recruiting news, some interesting news for the Arkansas Razorbacks. I wish Wilkie was here to talk.
Yeah, well, what we ought to do is have him record a hot drop just to get his thoughts on the whole thing.
And the subject at hand being that of, believe it or not, Chad Morris's kid's a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
Chandler Morris, a dual threat quarterback. Who's he? How many stars was he? 11
billion.
Yes. Recruited by a bunch of different big schools, including Clemson. And to the surprise of probably very few people other than maybe Clemson Tigers, Chandler's going to join his dad at Arkansas, giving Chad Morris quite a few guys to choose from when it comes to the quarterbacks this season.
Well, you've got, and the funny thing is that you've got Dallas Highland Park, the home for both Chandler Morris and for John Stephen Jones. And yes, it's that Jones from Jerry Jones and all of that. So you have the Highland Park pipeline working its way toward Arkansas. So, I've seen John Stephen Jones at quarterback, and he was he was a guy who got things done, and I want to see how he translates to the college game. I also, if Chandler Morris decides that he's going to follow in the Highland Park pipeline and take the Highland Park Turnpike to Arkansas, I want to see how he translates. And this is all well and good. You want to go be there with your dad. I get it. You want to be with a top program where Trevor Lawrence probably has one more year before he ends up going to Don Yee's league or wherever he goes. Do you want to sit that 1 year? Do you want to go to Clemson? Do you want to get away from all of the ideas that are going to be coming down on top of you and your father? Oh, you're only here because of your dad, those kinds of things, because you know that the nepotism, favoritism message board guy, he's going to be there, no doubt about it. So this is an interesting decision for the Morris family. Do you send him someplace where he's away from the family and away from all of the madness, or do you put him right in the cauldron? And I think that's the big question here in all of this going forward for the Morris family and for Arkansas.
I mean, I think why not? And I think really the bigger picture here is look at what Chad Morris is building at Arkansas. He played essentially last season with, what was his name? Brett Bielema's players.
Yeah.
Which totally did not fit what he wants to be and tries to do as a football coach. And now you're starting to see some of his guys come in. You're starting to see some quarterbacks who can move the ball, run the ball, be flexible with the ball. And you're seeing some of the skill position players start to roll into to Fayetteville. And I think you're going to see an improved Arkansas Razorback team this season. I don't know necessarily that they're going to be challenging Alabama right out of the blocks.
Right.
But I think if you look closely at what Morris is doing, he might be onto something there.
And that's what you're looking at. I know that when Wilkie and you and I have these discussions, when it comes to Arkansas, we knew that they were going to be not good last year. And that's being kind about my phraseology, because you have this conflagration of ideas and this collision of thought. And once again, you get into the whole portaling idea. How many folks does Chad Morris want of Brad Bielema's? And, who's going to play, who's going to sit? Do you still want to be a part of this on this 1 year deal? We knew that Arkansas was not going to be very good. And there should be a progression. I think that when we talked to Wilkie about Arkansas, and so on whatever piece of paper that you write topics down on, just make sure that we have somewhere in our season previews that we discuss Arkansas with Wilkie to get his notion as to how much better they will be. The biggest thing I think for Arkansas for me is patience, and how much patience they're going to have with Chad Morris. Are they going to give him a full cycle? Is it going to be that 4 or 5 years where you're bringing in players and making sure that Chad has his guys in there? And if they include his son, more power to him, because if that's, how you're looking at the advancement of your quarterback position, then so be it. But I think that Arkansas will be better. How much? Don't know. And when we have our three-way dance, or when we get into the college football preview stuff in about 6 weeks or so, then we'll have at least a better answer. At least we'll have some boots on the ground to give us an answer when it comes to Arkansas and Chad Morris.
Got to hit something really quick before we wrap up the first block here on the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hit it.
Guess who's back in town? It's the return of Terry Bowden.
As an intern.
As an intern.
What do you do as a Dabo Sweeney intern? Are you the guy who's running? Are you the guy who's at the copier? Are you, running? Are you the guy filling the copier with paper? Or what are you doing here as an intern?
What would you say you do here?
Well, allegedly, Coach Terry is he's enrolled in the graduate program for athletic leadership at Clemson.
This sounds like the Nick Saban bit that we ran from
the Nick Saban School of Coaching.
Yes. So, I would have figured
I still have that clip, by the way.
The Nick Saban Coach Rehabilitation Clinic is the premier coach rescue service in the country.
So that's what this seems like to me, is that this just seems like it's the eastern branch of the Nick Saban school, where it's like you can do it's like Southern New Hampshire University or Western Governors or what are these other online ones that we come into? UTI, if you're trying to fix cars, or those kind of schools. And so now you have Nick Saban.
Infection?
Yes, exactly. It's like the Universal Technical Institute or something like that. Whichever, what you're trying to fix cars. I can't remember.
University of Phoenix.
Yeah. So I guess this is like the University of Phoenix for fired college football coaches. You have your main branch in Tuscaloosa, and so now you have this fantastic idea at the main branch, and you're going to start up another one. And I guess you can do it online if you want, but maybe you have to show up in person. And so the eastern branch of the Nick Saban school, shockingly enough, is with the Alabama grad in Clemson. And so it's all of these mirror images of what's going on. What's been established.
You should rephrase that. It's actually it's the eastern version of the eastern version, because Kirby Smart's in Athens at the University of Georgia.
Okay, so this is the third branch of the bank that's opened up.
Yes, unless we forget David Beatty, formerly of Kansas, now a quote-unquote consultant at Texas for Tom Herman.
Okay, so that's number 4. So that's branch 4, which will be on the western side. So you have branches available in Austin, Tuscaloosa, Athens, and Clemson for your coaching prowess and advancement.
The Nick Saban School of Wayward Coaches, or whatever you call it.
Yes, that. So not a shock, but I guess this means that Terry gets the coffee and fills the printer?
Yeah. Or staples together the playbook, or
is he taking it pass fail, or is he actually getting a grade?
It's a good question. I wonder how many credits he gets for that.
And you remember when you and I were like half the age that we are now, and you could, in the magazine, you would see the ad about if you could draw Cubby, then you might have a you might be qualified to go to art school.
Yeah, art. So this Institute of Art.
Yeah, so it's like the Art Institute of whatever, and I think that's where we are right now with coaches. It's like if you two can coach, and you'd like to make sure that you might be able to coach a little more in the future, maybe you can go to Clemson or Georgia or Alabama or Texas and learn from Cubby's instructors.
More like if you've coached before, but are looking for another job as a coach, have we got the opportunity for you?
Yes.
That's right. You too can learn at the feet of a national champion at fill in the blank school.
This 3-year program begins when you're given your generic-sounding off-field position designed to take full advantage of whatever unique piece of knowledge you possess that Coach Saban has found useful.
You know what we need for when we talk about this in the future? I think we need Tommy Palmer to cut a promo. We need Tommy Palmer to cut an ad for this school that we run independently of everything else. We need Tommy to cut a 30-second or a 1-minute promo work ad about all this stuff.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Let's write something and we'll have him voice it. I need him to do some voiceover stuff for us anyway, so why not?
There you go.
Have a little.
I think that's
Should we wrap up the first block?
Yeah, I think that's it for the A.
Okay. Did we do the gratuitous promos?
No, we need to do the gratuitous promos, and I'll do that, and I'll send us to break. So, by the way, if you're listening to us, there are a bunch of different ways to
coming up in the second block too, because we want them to stick around.
Right, it's beer. That's what's coming up in the second block of the show. We're going to talk about beer.
Brought to you by beer.
Yes, and alcohol and things like that. So it's going to be a discussion on alcohol with our resident beer expert in the B block. So yeah, exactly. Keep looking around for her. She'll be in the background and back behind you there in a little bit. So if you want to hang out with us on every possible platform, first and foremost, download the app the OSG Sports app, and you can do that right here. This is what it looks like on Android. And Phil has the iPhone version, so don't forget to download that for all of the content that we do. There it is, ish. There. Oh, okay. You found. I saw it. I saw it buzz past. There it is. Got it. Right. So iPhone and Android.
I'll be right back. I have something else for us too.
Okay, so he's going to continue that while I continue to cut the promo. So don't forget to download the OSG Sports app, iOS and Android. You can catch up with us on OSG Sports on Facebook, on Twitter, on we don't have Instagram. We need to work on that. You can go to theonlinesportsguys.com for all the news that Phil feels compelled to vent about on a daily basis. But first and foremost, it's the app for all the content that we put out when it comes to college athletics, and then our friends at barnburner.ca with wrestling and hoops and hockey and all that kind of stuff. Did I miss anything?
No, that pretty much covers all the bases.
So what'd you get?
We got them YouTube. Don't forget the YouTube channel.
Okay, so YouTube channel, so you can actually see us raising our eyebrows and kvetching and venting our spleens when we do programming.
And our very dry senses of humor. I just burped, excuse me.
I just did too.
I'll show you this after we're done. It's business stuff.
Okay, so then people don't need to see it. So we're going to go to commercial, come back in 2 and 2, and we'll continue the OSG on CFB, brought to you by beer.
Washed it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom,
buckle
can we get
up.
some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back to The Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
If you want to scale a mountain, buy boots. If you want to turn your crush into something more, say hi. At Country Financial, we know protecting the things you love and preparing for tomorrow start with simple steps. So we help you take small steps today with insurance and financial services that can have a big impact on your family's future.
For all your home, auto, and life insurance needs, call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871.
Welcome back to the review. It's the OSG on CFB, the CFB with OSG. He's at OSG Phil. I'm at OSG Nelson. It's Brother John and Brother Phil discussing everything going on in college football. Whether you were asking about it, thought about it, or wanted to have somebody else talk about it, that's what we're going to do. And as promised, the B Block is brought to us by beer.
When you say but.
And do you want to talk about the larger school with beer, or since you and the boss are of big with your sensibilities and independent brewers and things like that, are we going to talk about that one first, or are we talking about that one second?
Second.
Okay, so Texas A&M has decided that they're going to expand alcohol sales. I'm shocked.
They would be. We talked a couple weeks ago about how the SEC was going to allow their member schools the opportunity to sell beverages inside their stadiums if they so chose. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. If you pick Texas A&M as the school who would be the first ones to officially approve it to the general public,
you win.
You win.
A variety of beer and wine sold to the public in public areas, unlike what UGA was thinking about having to be a mega donor to do something like this. designated locations till the end of the third quarter. With new guidelines, alcohol will not be sold by vendors in seating areas. And of course, the number of beverages purchased at one time will be limited. Just get your friends and I'll go as a group and act like you don't know each other when you're standing in line. Quoting R.C. Slocum in a statement, "This is another way we're enhancing the amenities at Kyle Field. We're extending the availability of alcohol beyond the premium areas, which have had this option for many years. Fans 21 and older will have the option to purchase alcohol regardless of seating area." End quote. So, yeah, congratulations, Texas A&M. You win.
Yes, they will be the first of many, no doubt, to jump onto the bandwagon now that the restrictions are, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, being loosened. I'm sure that there will be plenty of Lone Star and
Coors.
Coors
is revenue.
Shiner and all kinds of stuff out there in out there in beautiful Aggie land in Texas.
Okay, so now here's the one, and this is where I'm going to have you put on your thinking cap for the remainder of this segment. Middle Tennessee State. And we give Rick Stockstill and the Blue Raiders and everybody in Murfreesboro a big tip of the hat just on general premise for what they've been able to build there in Murfreesboro and Conference USA. Middle Tennessee State has announced plans for a new field-level beer garden for Blue Raider games at Floyd Stadium. And here's 80 Chris Massaro, and I don't have a Chris Massaro impression. We're thrilled to partner with our. Okay, now here we go. Here's the fun part. Here's how he phrases this. "We are thrilled to partner with our fermentation science program to provide another element to providing an unparalleled game experience for our fans. We visualize an area to be a festival street fair type area in the south end zone for all of our fans 21 and older, or 21 years old, to enjoy as they watch great Conference USA football. We hope this unique offering will help grow attendance and provide a better game environment for our fans while perfectly showcasing yet another partnership athletics has with academics."
Yes, Rosie just brought this to me. That's why I'm showing it.
Oh, congratulations. Okay, that's something. I guess that's a loofah. In addition to the beer garden in the south end zone, Middle Tennessee is also partnering with students at the school to help come up with specific microbrews for each opponent that comes to Murfreesboro as well. So what do you think about this while I dig up their opponents?
Well, I guess the question is it going to be just style, or are they going to get beers from that particular team's location? That would be the challenge.
Yes.
Because not all beers are distributed, not all craft beers are distributed in or throughout the country in all states. Some have limited distribution, some have regional distribution, and so on and so forth. Though it would be interesting, it would be an interesting experiment. I kind of like it.
Okay, so here we go. Here are the home bases of the visiting teams this year, and I'm going to need your beer brain to come up with, outside of the fermentation science program at Middle Tennessee State, the first craft beer that comes to mind, or the first beer that comes to mind that should be sold in Floyd Stadium, in addition to what's being created here in this beer garden. Okay, so here we go. Tennessee State, so that would be Nashville.
Oh, that could be any number of beers. I mean, Yazoo. There's probably a half dozen breweries in there that could easily fill that. That's 30 miles away, so that's like a home game.
So what's your favorite Nashville brew?
I would say that they probably will go with a red ale of some sorts.
Okay.
A little bit different, a little bit more laid back.
Okay.
Nothing too overly hoppy.
Okay. All right.
Some zing to it.
Okay. Duke. So Durham, North Carolina.
Bavari Brewing. There are multiple North Carolina brewers that would fit the bill there. I think North Carolina, you're talking about probably a Saison or some sort of farmhouse ale, because that's kind of one of the things that they do there. It's a little bit more hipster.
Oh, Highwire.
Highwire, of course. You couldn't go without them.
Okay.
One of the best breweries you'll ever find anywhere on the planet.
Says the man who visited them in Asheville. Marshall University. So Huntington, West Virginia. Do you know any West Virginia beers?
I do not. But that sounds to me like oatmeal porter.
Okay.
That kind of a style, more of a dark beer.
Okay.
Maybe Doppelbock or Schwartz beer or something like that.
Okay. Florida International, which means so that's like because Florida Atlantic is Boca, FIU is in the same area, so like a Miami kind of a thing.
Yeah, they're both north of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
The Palm Beaches, Boca area.
All right.
Probably there you're going with a light lager of some sorts.
Okay.
Maybe a golden ale, possibly even a Berliner Weiss, or more of a Sour-Gosa type of beer, but definitely something easy to drink, lowering the alcohol content, and a lighter beer.
All right, so then our last two are Rice University, so that would be Houston, and Old Dominion, which is Roanoke, Virginia.
No, Old Dominion's not no Roanoke.
Well, then where are they?
They're in Richmond, aren't they?
Okay, well then, so then Richmond, Virginia then. Trying to look for the location of Old Dominion. So, all right. So talk about Texas beer while I figure out where Old Dominion is.
Yeah, Rice is easy. That's a Shiner Bock.
Okay.
Bock's more of a German style, a little bit maltier, good style beer, good, fairly easy to drink too, much like the lagers and the stuff we were talking about for the Florida beers, but a little bit richer, a little bit more roasty, more to it.
Okay. ODU is Norfolk.
It is Norfolk.
Okay.
Again, you're talking about a coastal beer there. Probably a good Gosa, some sort of a sour, something along those lines. Would definitely fit the bill.
Okay, so we have solved Middle Tennessee's beer problems for the 2019 Beer Garden football season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they need to invite us up there for one of their games, so you and the boss can actually see if the fermentation science program is being steered into the proper direction.
Well, I suspect they will. I can't say that it's hard to mess up beer because it's a pretty complicated process to actually brew stuff. But if it's not cleaned and everything's not sparkling clean and sanitized during the brewing process, you can ruin a beer really quickly.
Okay.
But if you're somebody learning to brew, they better get started early.
Like now?
Yeah, it takes a few weeks to get those beers up and running, but good on them. It's an opportunity for the students to get some real-world experience, producing a couple of kegs of that stuff to sell on tap at the games. I think that's a fantastic thing. I wish more schools had that and would be able to do things like that. It's a big business. I mean, the craft beer business is huge. There's 7,000 plus breweries in the U.S. now that aren't Bud, Miller, or Coors.
Yes.
And most of them make some pretty damn good product. And if you're going to learn, that's not a bad place to learn.
Okay, so you've been warned, Middle Tennessee. The beer faction of OSG. So I guess we need to do like OSG beer on Twitter.
Yeah, we kind of have that with the two ale hoppers.
Okay, well then two ale hoppers. We need to OSG ale hoppers or whatever, or something like that. We need to get that figured out. So when the two of you go to Murfreesboro and figure out the beer garden, you can give it the proper grade during football season. Before we go, one story that came across the wires that I thought was, how do we say, intriguing?
Yes, that's how we say it.
Cliff Kingsbury, when he was head coach, and you know where I'm going.
Yes, I do.
Cliff Kingsbury admitted to using fake social media accounts to monitor away about his players and what they were doing on social media. What do you think about that?
I think he's the first person who has admitted it openly.
Yes.
I think it's happens probably more times than any of us realize. I know at the University of Georgia, and I'm sure at probably quite a few of the other major schools, they have people, assistants, or interns. See Bowden Terry.
Yeah. Could you imagine him trying to handle this situation as an intern at Clemson next year?
Tara, we need you to take a peek at some of the social media accounts and see how the young men are doing.
What is this Twitter that you're talking about? How do I log in?
But they have grad interns, they have coaches, they have people whose job it is to monitor the kids.
They have hall monitors for social media.
Yeah, and it may come from the sports information department. It may come from any number of places, but most of these schools are realized now you have to have something like that. You have to be aware, conscious, not shocked when somebody digs up some sort of dirt on one of your star players on social media, because quite honestly, it happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's a person alive, including these people who are digging up the dirt on others, who can't say they probably put something out there that they shouldn't have. Some are more extreme than others. It's a big issue. Social media is the dominant form of communication, really, for people of a certain age, and that age being those who play college sports.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids that age don't really realize that once you put something like that out on the internet, you can't really take it back.
Yeah,
even if it's just amongst friends, it's out there.
Quoting Herm Edwards, don't press send.
Mm-hmm. Thinking something's one thing, putting it out on social media is something else. And you and I both know it from seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's watching or listening to this knows it just as well as we do.
Yep.
People bitch about their day-to-day lives. They bitch about politics. They bitch about world peace. They bitch about people doing stupid things and any number of other things that you can think of on social media. They complain and think that, I'm just complaining because I need to vent somehow. Well, yeah, unfortunately, there are people now in the world whose primary job function is to find stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you've posted naked pictures of yourself on the internet, first of all, you're an idiot. But that's a whole other subject. Second of all, somebody's going to find it. They may not find it today and they may not find it tomorrow, but eventually it's going to surface. There are internet spiders and bots that all they do is scour the internet and social media accounts looking for keywords that would tip them off to say, oh, wait, we got somebody here. So the fact that Cliff Kingsbury was monitoring is neither outrageous, scary,
or shocking.
Any other adjective that you want to use. It's the world that we currently live in.
Yeah, and the fact that he admitted it, I think, is number one. That's the biggest note in all of this. But do not be surprised at some point if you end up with a student athlete who, for whatever reason, in whatever context, decides to come chasing after the institution that they were a part of if they were busted in one of these things. I'm just waiting for that to happen, and the invasion of privacy road that we have to go down in these particular times and days. So
there's no law against paying attention to what people post on social media.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sooner or later, that the flip side is going to come to the fore from someone who feels that they have been aggrieved one way or the other for having a university look at them. It's coming.
There's nothing that prohibits it. There's nothing illegal about it. I mean, there are plenty of people who have social media accounts that don't post stuff, but they watch and see what other people do all the time.
Yeah, and as a serial retweeter, I can agree to that.
The idea that somebody's got an account out there that you can't really identify or you don't really know who it is, and they're looking in, you have no way of knowing that.
Nope.
And that's the whole idea. That's the whole reason social media has become such an outrageous place where people say pretty much anything that comes across their minds.
Yeah.
Because the power of being behind a keyboard.
Yes. Keyboard warriors. Is that what we call people? Is that what the terminology is?
It's fair enough.
Twitter warrior, keyboard warrior, one of those.
Yeah, but the idea of somebody getting in trouble for just kind of keeping an eye out on what somebody else is doing, nah, I don't see that happening.
All right. Well, like I said, me being the patent pessimist of the show, I'm just waiting for that other element to drop in the 180 degrees of everything. All right, so let's recap. So I'm for complete and total free agency. I think that Bob Bowlesby is going down the wrong path. You have fixed the Middle Tennessee State University Fermentation Science Program. You've already laid out their menu for the football season. And Terry Bowden is going to be changing all of the Xerox paper in the printers and going, I guess, for the Dunkin' Donuts runs this season as an intern. So that's been a pretty full show in a bunch of different directions that we don't normally get to go, but that's the beauty of the off season. All right, time for the blatant promo one more time.
Yes.
All right. So while I'm looking, I'm just looking for the Android version of the app. There we go. Android version of the app is right here.
And
Phil's gonna
iTunes version of it is
right in there somewhere on his phone, but it does exist. Yeah, there it is. Got it. All right, there it is. So don't forget, download the OSG Sports app for all the programming that we come across, that comes across our way, whether it's college football or wrestling or basketball or hockey or everything else. Everything that's not soccer is the OSG Sports side of things. The Soccer Down Here app, also available iOS and Android for the soccer side of things. And it's been a pretty busy month for the sport, both domestically and internationally. Follow us on Twitter at OSG Sports. He's at OSG Phil. I'm at OSG Nelson. Follow us on Facebook at OSG Sports as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel where you get to see things like this. If you're not watching us and just listening to us in an audio sense, you can see what we look like in a video sense on the YouTube channel, and the onlinesportsguys.com for all the news that Phil feels compelled to vent about on a daily basis. And he's done some stuff on the NBA and what the Toronto Raptors and how they're good for basically an entire continent when it comes to a professional sport. And I'm sure that the Anthony Davis trade and him going out to Los Angeles will be something that he'll tackle sometime fairly soon. But daily news at theonlinesportsguys.com, daily op-eds, and that's fun as well. Did I miss anything?
No, I'll work on the Instagram account here while I have some time over the next couple of days.
Okay, so Soccer Down Here's on Instagram, and he'll work on the OSG Sports Instagram account as well. And remember that if you get us on Instagram, you can send things to Facebook and Twitter simultaneously. That's the beauty of it. You go through Instagram, you send it 3 different directions, and you don't have to do 3 different things. So for I guess the coaching / travel balling at Jay Wilkerson 16, and for the guy who is really hip deep in Atlanta Brave stuff right now, AP_Golden85, AP_Golden85. Anthony and Wilkie, he's at OSG Phil, I'm at OSG Nelson. Play it safe, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
German? Forget it, he's rolling.
And it ain't over now.
Game over,